Welcome to Simmons Says, where I help emerging and struggling writers create intriguing plots and compelling characters to make their stories hard to put down and even harder to forget. A safe has been robbed, and what's been stolen is worth millions of dollars and has already cost the lives of 3 human beings. Hi there. Alex Simmons. Welcome to another episode of Simmons Says, where we figure out what happens next in your mystery stories. Yes, that's right. We are continuing down the winding roads and through the dark alleys of mystery, and I'm having a good time. And so today's episode is taking on the question of how to build intrigue in a mystery story. Now, let me start out by saying that intrigue, according to the dictionary, and I wrote it down here so I can read it. According to the dictionary, intrigue means to be intensely fascinated or captivated by something that is strange, unusual, or mysterious, sparking a strong desire to learn more. An intrigue and suspense in a mystery story, in a thriller, is a key factor. It's an absolute key factor. Do we care about the characters that we are watching? And are we caught up in the intrigue and suspense of the unfolding events? That's part of our job as writers. So let's go back to this supposition that I started with, all right, that a safe has been robbed and lives have been lost. So your first question might be, what was stolen and from whom? And that might be your second question. Then you might ask yourself, well, okay, why? That might be another question. From whom? What was stolen? Why was it stolen? And with all of these questions, at least with these first three questions, you're off and running. You begin to sort of put together your plot, your outline. Maybe even, if you're a pantser, you start writing away because you got the adrenaline rush already, right? Now, I've started mystery stories from other directions. When I developed an interactive physical investigation experience for the Fresh Air Fund many years ago, right? I was told that it's going to take place on 2,000 acres or so of property. There's some dorms, a boys' dorm, girls' dorm. There's a cafeteria space. There's some other housing units for different purposes, and I could use all of that, right? And I needed to involve 100 teenage boys and girls in this interactive mystery experience. And I could also use a few actors, just very few, but I could. And also some of the camp staff, right? So I was given those parameters, a location and participants, and to a certain degree. But then I had to ask myself, okay, so what happens to whom, why, and how? That's what I had to work out. And to answer those questions, I needed to think more and from a concrete platform, from a stronger stance or a stronger springboard to launch from, right? I needed something little bit more solid that I could build on. So I went to the crime, right? So how does that work? Well, okay, rather than telling you how that one worked, let me use one that you may have seen on television, but I won't use all the names. So let's just say it was a made-for-TV movie. It was a mystery story, right? And a young woman is murdered, and an Air Force captain is accused of the murder. He's framed, actually, right? And the question is, did he do it because they were lovers and he was married and didn't want his wife to find out? That's kind of where the police start with this, right? But if he's innocent, which is the premise of the story, then who are the other suspects? So then they lay out the suspects. There's a boyfriend who's got a bit of a temper and he's jealous and all of that sort of thing. And he's pushy, he's aggressive. So maybe they got into an argument. Maybe she was involved with somebody else, or maybe he was having an affair with her. We don't know yet. We just know about this boyfriend, right? But see, that would be too simple. It's the captain. Maybe he was having an affair because he's married, and she was going to say something. The boyfriend. Oh, well, was he married and having an affair, and he was afraid she was going to say something? No, no. Okay, so let's forget. He's not married. He's single. He's available, but he's still a bit of a pill. So then where do we go from there? Again, if the captain is innocent, all right, if we work with that premise, then we have to ask, okay, who are the other suspects? Now, the way this story was set up, she has a boyfriend who's got a bit of a temper and he's very jealous, whether rightfully so or not, we don't know initially, right? But he's very jealous and, he might have lost his cool and done her in, right? She's also got a job. She's working for a husband and wife construction and real estate firm. And subsequently, maybe she was involved with the husband and the wife found out. Or maybe the husband was afraid she was going to say something and ruin his situation with his wife, and he's in business with her. And so maybe that was a threat. So you got two possible suspects there. But if the stakes aren't really based on an affair, then what else could it be? If the reason for the crime is not some sort of blackmail, she's going to tell on him or it's going to suddenly come out, then what else would be a justifiable reason in someone's warped mind for taking a human life? Well, let's look at what else is involved. A military captain, all right, who's married and is prestigious in his position, a boyfriend who has a temper and also has a business, right? And he isn't married. A boss who's married and in business with his wife and a big business, a lot of money involved. And if jealousy or blackmail of an affair is not the factor, then what else are we looking at? What would be, again, a motivation for having to kill somebody? And that's where your investigator begins to have to dig even further. Something about maybe the business, a business deal. Are they in the middle of a business deal? They are. It's a big business deal. It involves a lot of property worth millions of dollars. Okay. So could the victim somehow be involved in that deal or possibly going to sabotage the deal in some way? Could that be the motive? And if that is the motive, who stands to lose or gain from her death? Would it be the husband or the wife? Well, that would make sense. But maybe it's also somebody who's also involved in the deal. So you would look at your suspects, line them up, look at the motive, then look for opportunity. Does the person have the opportunity to commit the crime? And then look for the means. Does the person have the resources, the tools, the circumstances that would allow them to commit the crime? See, having an understanding of the crime and how it works gives you all of this other necessary information: characters, suspects, methodology, red herrings, clues, solution. It even helps you determine who your sleuth needs to be. What kind of person is needed to figure out the various aspects of this crime and bring in the villain at the end. But it also does something else. Because you understand the layers of the crime and the motives behind them, you are now able to increase the stakes and therefore the intrigue and the suspense. A linear crime is someone gets murdered, there's a couple of people that are possible suspects, you find out one or two things, that's the person that did it, boom, they're captured, and it's the end. That's almost like a police procedural in some degree, to some degree. There's not a lot of things to figure out. There's enough stupid mistakes that were made that, boom, I got you. Maybe it was a crime of passion and you did it and you didn't have time or the wherewithal to cover all the things up, to cover it up. But if you're building up a mystery story with clues and all of that, then you want to layer your story and you want to keep increasing the suspense and the intrigue. Keep giving us reasons to look left and watching this hand while the right hand is doing something over here. And then to do it fairly so that when the climax comes and we see the reveal, we can go, oh, that's why such and such. And when she was saying and they were doing, and that, it makes more sense. So this TV movie that I refer to here, that was what happened. We had a situation where the crime gets resolved by the detectives, the sleuths, figuring out the motive, the opportunity, and the means, narrowing it down to the one suspect who had it all. Those three, the trifecta. And we were, for those of us who maybe figured out some of it or a little of it or all of it, we were right there for the climax. For those who didn't figure out any of it, we were right there for the climax. And we stayed because the intrigue and the suspense kept us going and kept building. So here's what I want you to do. Take a look at one of your stories or your plots, right? See if some aspect of the story itself, or maybe the alibi for one of the accused or the suspects, see if it's too simple, too linear. Try to find that twist, that diversion or distraction, that unexpected moment, that element or action or that information that you can use that's going to send us, the readers, or if we're watching this, going to send us and your sleuth down the wrong direction or in another direction momentarily, right? Because again, the missteps when your sleuth or the person, maybe the accused is trying to figure it out to clear their name. When they misstep, the clock is still ticking. If they're about to be caught or they're about to be convicted or, maybe someone's trying to get rid of them before they can figure it out, that pressure is always on. And every time they go in the wrong direction, they lose more time and that threat gets closer and closer to them. So again, intrigue, suspense, we're right there. Are they going to make it? Well, oh, no, no, don't do that. It's got to be. You want to keep us involved. You want to keep the audience involved. Okay, so take on that challenge. See how it works for you. Send me an example of it, or at least let me know, did it work for you? Do you have any questions, anything like that? Pop them in the comments. Send me an email. I would love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, I'll get back to you. Okay? So until next time, keep writing and keep discovering who done what, to whom, when, why, and how. And Simmons says.